Liz Cheney was talking about January 6th, reflecting on it, and not the violent part at this moment, but right before that. So if you remember, on the day of January 6th, a bunch of pro-Trump congressmen and women were planning on rejecting the certification of the results. So they were going to say, hey, this process of Congress certifying the election results, I'm not going to take part in that, and I'm going to try to prevent the lawful transition of power and the lawful process, the constitutional process that's laid out there. And Liz Cheney just tells this incredibly fascinating story that's also really funny about how these people don't believe what they're saying. These congressmen and women who are pro-Trump till the end, they don't believe a thing that they're saying about the election, about Trump. And I know we already understand this. I know so often we've had reports come out of, unnamed Republicans hate Trump, but then support him whenever they're on camera. And we know that that's the case, but this story just reveals it in a, hilarious way, as you'll see here.
In the cloakroom on January 6th.
Cloakroom is the kind of, right before you go into the House chamber.
Before the attack happened. I was in the Republican cloakroom. I was working on my remarks, and because I was supposed to speak that day. And there were sheets of paper laid out on the desks. And I asked one of the staffers in the cloakroom, what are these sheets of paper? Because members were coming in and signing them. And this person said to me, well, those are the objection sheets, because it's only actually required that one House member object, but there were so many who wanted to show they were objecting that they'd set up these sign-up sheets in the cloakroom. And as I was sitting there, a member came in and he signed his name on each one of the state's sheets. And then he said under his breath, the things we do for the orange Jesus. And I thought, you're taking an act that is unconstitutional.
Wow. So this congressman goes, what we do for the orange Jesus. And that, to me, that sentence, what we do for the orange Jesus, sums up the actions of the Republican Party as a whole since 2016. Since Trump became the nominee, we all are going to bow our heads, with some limited exceptions, to the orange Jesus and follow his, instructions to be completely compliant with what he wants, regardless of if it goes against our stated principles. And this is why we are where we are now. If from the beginning everyone stood against Trump, we might have a different story. But that wasn't the case. And in 2020, we've talked about before, the reason why Trump wasn't able to stay in power is there weren't enough people in the government who were able or willing to back him. And he wanted to literally, regardless of the election results, stay in the White House. And he was going to try to do that. He tried to do it by having alternate electors come, and then Vice President Pence saying, okay, I recognize those electors, or I don't certify the election, or whatever it is, so that Trump could stay the president, even though, again, he lost the free and fair election to Joe Biden. And the reason why it didn't work is because not enough congressmen and women, not enough senators, and not enough people in the government broadly would go along with this. And so what I keep saying is that who knows if that'll happen next time? If these MAGA individuals keep running for office, keep getting in there, more people as just government workers get in the government, in the military, and are either pro-Trump or just pro the ideology that Trump kind of launched, because Trump may move on, but will still have this ideology for a while, I do believe, whether it comes in the form of DeSantis or someone else. If you have enough of those people, then next time it might work. Next time you could have a situation where Trump or a different person similar to him loses an election, but then stays in power. And that's the threat to democracy that we keep repeating. And right there, it's a funny story, but it's a deeply sad and disgraceful story where he knows, that person that Liz Cheney was telling the story about, he knows what he's doing. He knows that this is all fake, because if he was going to sign these papers saying, I'm rejecting the election results, and he genuinely believed in that, he wouldn't say, oh, what we do for the orange Jesus, right? No, he would go, yes, absolutely, we should be doing this. This is justified. I'm not doing it for anyone except for democracy. But he didn't believe it. He understood, like we all did, that the election wasn't stolen, that these claims were false. But yet he was having to, in the sense of he knew his base would want to see him going along with Trump's lies. But then, of course, he didn't have to, in the sense of having some moral backbone. And that is what is definitely not present in a lot of the people who enable Trump, who support him. And it's super heartbreaking from the standpoint of being an American and wanting to be proud of the system and the kind of idea of our American democracy. And you have more and more people within that democracy, within that system, who are deeply against what it stands for and are way more willing to put their short-term political ambitions above the integrity of our democracy. And he's a great example of that. And he was willing to put the orange Jesus above our democracy. And that has to be called out. And that's why I do admire Liz Cheney for what she's doing, speaking out against Trump and the movement. But we all need to see that so clearly and continue to communicate with more people about it.